Hey guys, welcome to episode 3 of the Ben and Dren show. I am Ben Howe and I'm joined by my co-host, Dren Zrutza. How are you, mate?
Yeah, hi, good day, mate.
So, who we got today, mate?
Also, we have a special guest, which is Tim Walmsley.
Oh, Tim Walmsley.
That was pretty good, yeah. Hi.
This is it's like a fancy name. You almost have to put an English accent on to say it.
Yeah.
Walmsley.
Well, it's almost pronounced like W-A-R-M, like warm, Walmsley.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then when my dad was like 65, he suddenly decided, no, it's pronounced Walmsley. Like, and I'm like, you can't. Like, I'm almost 40. You can't give me my whole life calling it Walmsley, and then suddenly go, by the way, we're now changing the pronunciation.
Yeah.
So,
well, you could kind of Australianify it and sort of say Wamsley.
yeah. Oh God.
I
Yeah.
was like, no, this is like proper English. Like
Yeah.
you've got it's like English accent, tweed, like, hello, Walmsley.
Walmsley.
Yeah.
Yes. That's how it would be with the British. Walmsley. But yeah, we're Australian, so it's Walmsley. Yeah.
So, yeah, welcome, mate.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. You're part of the Founders Club at Cohort, which is awesome.
I am. Love it.
But, Dren, tell us a little bit about this guy. What's his go?
Well, therefore, we have Tim, right? And you'll tell us.
What do you know? That's the question.
I know ex-defence. 12 years?
So 13 years full time, and then some reserve time after that.
Wow.
And retired as a major in 2015.
Should we call you major? Like, is there some sort of like thing we have to call you by?
No. The only people that do that, my kids sometimes have to get their heels together when they're talking to me. Maybe drop down and do some push-ups, But no, apart from that, I've moved on.
Yeah. And education, Dren?
Yeah, so he has a master's degree in defense and then a project management degree as well.
Yeah, I've got two master's degrees, one master's degree in project management, and the next is in capability development and acquisition.
Wow.
So that's a very sort of defense-centric one, but it's about how do you define the capability you want to acquire, and then how do you acquire it from industry and do it with value for money and all that sort of thing. So, that's...
So it was project management was... I guess, like, were you in, like, did you see some action? Were you in actual, like, was that part of it, or was it?
That was towards the end. So I was in artillery.
Right.
I did everything in artillery except artillery, if that makes sense. So I didn't fire the guns. I wasn't on the guns. I did weapon locating radars, which were designed to detect incoming rockets and warn everyone to get into bunkers and things like that.
Yep.
Then intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance radar systems that found the enemy where they were out in the bush or wherever it was.
Yep.
And then I did ground-based air defense, so missiles shooting down aircraft. And then I was part of the unit that introduced drones, the first drones into Australia.
Okay.
So we took drones over to Iraq and Afghanistan.
I think Kelvin was, we had Kelvin in last time, and it's funny, we were laughing before and saying, our podcasts have weirdly got this kind of war defense bent to them for some reason. Like every time we kind of seem to speak about war. But I think he was saying something about, was it the drones, or there was some technology that Australians did and still do. Shows how much I was paying attention to the actual conversation.
Yeah.
But, the Aussies are doing some crazy things. And then we were talking about how, that overlap with technology and defense. Where a lot of innovation does actually come from that. So
there's a lot of innovation, particularly in the Australian military. We're a much smaller force on a world scale, so we have to punch above our weight. And we've got some of the best soldiers in the world, and then we're getting in some of the cutting edge technology to really enhance that capability.
Yeah. And you served at Afghanistan, you said, and.
Yeah, so I served in Iraq in 2006, 2007, and then Afghanistan in 2008, 2009.
Wow, so you've been there all the time, or?
It was a 7-month tour. So you did your lead-up training, which was about 4 to 5 months, and then went over there for 7, and then you'd come back and do sort of some reintegration type stuff to get you back into normal life, and then you're back into your job. So my project management stuff was after Afghanistan.
Right. Yes.
I got diagnosed with a degenerative back disorder, and it was either give me a desk job or, I I went, well, I'm going to go into something more interesting. So that's when I went and did my 2 master's degrees. And and then I started running defense projects. So the project I was running was a $2 billion project to replace all the missile systems in defense.
Wow.
In the army, sorry, not the whole of defense. So that was amazing. You know, that's where I got my first sort of introduction to industry and how it operates. And
Yeah, so I mean, the one thing that we try and do here a little bit different is just talk about that founder's journey. That's kind of the whole sort of center of our podcast.
Yep.
But really learning from different founders and how they got into that entrepreneurial life and where they started. So we wanted to touch on that, but sort of let's go back to the very start and just sort of say, you know, how did you get into the army or want to go into that? Was it straight out of high school? And
no, I was like the black sheep of the family.
Oh,
right?
really?
Like when I left high school, I sort of tried university, but I spent all my time at the bars, and so I didn't actually do much.
That's university though. That's
Yeah.
do at university.
Yeah, I just forgot about the actual learning. And so
that's what, most university students do that too.
Yeah, I lasted about 6 months there, and then I started working in nightclubs. When I was
this is Dren.
There
we go. With bars and
war
defense.
and everything's
well,
connected, right?
Yeah, that's right. So I was working in nightclubs when I was sort of 18, 19 through to about 21. And did all of the bad things that you do when you live a nightlife and sleep throughout the day.
You're the Australian version of Dren.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then it was actually my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time. She was the one who got me into the army because she was like, you know, I'm going to make something of myself. You obviously just want to drink yourself, you know, stupid. I'm going to go do something. I'm going to join the army. So she got all the brochures and, you know, I was looking through it with her, trying to be a supportive boyfriend. And then I saw these brochures going, hey, man, this is some cool stuff. Maybe I could do this as well.
Sounds like that movie, The American Sniper. I don't know. Bradley Cooper.
Well, I mean, actually, the brochures I learned once I was in the army, I realized that most of those brochures weren't real. But so I said, okay, well, I'll join with you so that I'm there supporting you through the process. And I got in and she didn't.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So then I went to officer training and down in Canberra at RMC.
Yep.
And
how long is that? Is that like 3 months?
Yeah, no. So this is for officer training. It's 18 months. It's 3 6-month blocks. So the first 6 months is basically basic training where they break you down and, you know, build you back up. Yep. And then, you know, second class, you get a bit more responsibility and learn more about it. And then first class is sort of, you know, you organize the rest of the cadets and, you know, you have sort of leadership positions and then you graduate and become a lieutenant. Yep. And then they put you into your unit.
Yeah, wow.
To start. Yeah.
So, you know, obviously all that army training, the discipline, that obviously helps towards being a good project manager, right?
Yeah, well, I actually thought that it was the reason I went into it, project manager, was because it seems so logical. Like as an officer, I had a certain amount of resources, so people, you know, fuel, money, whatever it was. I had a mission that I had to achieve, and I had to do it in a certain period of time.
Yeah.
And I had to do it with a level of quality, meaning no one dies.
Yeah.
You know, so it was. Can I achieve my outcome with the resource I've got on time and on quality, you know, at the right quality? And that's project management. So it was like, well, let me go in and find out what this is about.
I was actually, and I'll let you ask a question, dominating, because I'm so interested by this, but I was thinking that once about Israel. Like there seems to be a lot of tech and innovation coming from Israel, and then they all have to go
army.
Yeah, they all have to do that stint in the army. I was wondering if that would have any impact on that, or
I'm not sure that the mandatory military service has anything to do with the actual like tech scene there. I think it more has to do with the fact that they're surrounded by enemies.
Right.
You know,
so they have to innovate. They've got to They've got to continually.
They've always got to be on guard.
Yes.
And that I think that's why they have much more risk when it comes to. And to tell you the truth, I don't know much about Israel. I've never been there. But
me neither. But I just noticed there's always seems to be really cool tech, and they seem to be quite, you know, startup scene there's really strong, and there's always, you know, really great stories coming out of there. But I just wondered if it had anything to do with that training and the discipline.
Well, I think it's a culture of like being able to take more risk to generate like a better capability, right? Like they're a small country, you know, like I said, surrounded by, you know, people that are trying to hurt them, and so they have to take risks and push the boundaries and try and get a more advanced systems in place. And they do. They have some amazing stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, I'll let you jump in.
I mean, it's fascinating to see like 13 years of your life in the army and then studying there and then just shifting totally, like becoming the entrepreneur. Why?
I don't think it was a big shift to entrepreneur. Like I always had an entrepreneurial spirit.
Okay.
And even in my time in the military, I was constantly, I always wanted to be my own boss. Like I was always having those ideas that I wanted to flesh out and see if it had any sort of merit. And there was a number that I had through the military, and I almost thought, okay, this is it. I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit military. I'm going to start this new business.
Yeah.
But each one of those ideas taught me a different lesson, And if I had have been in the startup scene back then, I would have probably learned these lessons the easy way from hearing about it from other people. But so, for example, the first idea I had was in the army, you move around every 2 years. So you're always in, defense rental housing. And we had cats. So you could never have a cat door because it wasn't your house. So I went, I'll design like one of the, from the sliding screen doors, I'll design a clip-on small screen that has a cat door in it that you can take with you, to your next house. And I was like, this is perfect. And I designed it up. I drew schematics, and I was like already going and getting prices for how I was going to build my first sort of, demo system. Yeah. And then I was sitting there one night on the couch, and I went, I'm just going to do some research. And for the first time, it dawned on me I hadn't researched the market. And there's like another Australian company like in the next suburb that's been doing this for like 10 years with the exact same product. And it was like
house that smells like cat.
Yeah.
Damn it.
So I was like, right. So before you go off and try and start your own business, how about you do some market research?
Just next door.
And that's a stupid lesson to learn. But I never thought about it, right? I just thought, I've got this great idea, and I'd never heard of them. So therefore they mustn't exist.
Yes.
So that was like that one. And then, Blue Apron or HelloFresh or those ones.
Yeah, HelloFresh.
The ones where
they
deliver the stuff for your meals, but it's all pre-prepared.
Yes.
And you actually cook it.
Yeah.
So unlike Light and Easy, where it's like you just stick it in the microwave.
Look at me, I don't know what healthy eating is. It looks disgusting.
So I designed, I thought that was a couple of years before Blue Apron. So I came up with this business called Sous for Sous Chef. And it was going to be an app-based system where, celebrity chefs would talk you through how to cook up these amazing meals, and you'd just get the packs delivered to your house. And so I did up a full business plan. I actually did my market research. There was no one doing it. And I went, fantastic. So I did up a business plan. And one of my dad's mates is really high up in the food industry. So I went, okay, he's going to be the one who's going to validate this idea. So I sent him the business plan. And I was constantly chasing him, but I left it with him for like 6 months. Yeah. And he didn't do anything with it. And so I sort of got disgruntled. And then the next thing I know, like these other companies start popping up doing exactly what I was talking about. And I was like, well, okay, second lesson learned. Don't wait. Don't wait for someone to, give you feedback. If you've got an idea, like jump at it.
Yep.
So you must have done like a lot of market research before BenchOn then.
When BenchOn came, I was into it. Like, you get that feeling like you're like, this is the one, right? Like this is the idea. Like I have to do this.
Yes.
So how did BenchOn start?
So
just quickly, what is BenchOn?
BenchOn?
Yeah, for people who haven't.
Yeah. So we're a global resource and supply platform. So essentially what it does is it digitizes the entire business network across all industries so that it can automatically match supply and demand for contingent specialist talent. So like if you need a software developer for 2 months to come in and do a task, or a marketer, or an aerospace engineer, or a data scientist, or whatever you need, it'll automatically link you to the businesses that have those people with the right skill sets that are available at the price point that you want.
Right. Okay. Yes.
As well as it's also a supply chain management system. So companies that are looking for products and services, like manufacturing and all those sorts of things, can do the exact same thing. So
if I've got staff at my company, then and they're not being I don't need them. They've just finished a big project. I can like pimp them out essentially. Or
subcontract them. So other companies
pimp
them out. Well, that's exactly right. Yeah. So other companies go, look, I'm in a surge period. I need some call center staff, and I need a line manager to come in. I don't want to hire them because I'm only going through a surge period for 4 months. there's another company who's got someone sitting there going, I'm not really using you.
Yeah.
And so the benefit is there that the employee gets job stability because they stay employed rather than getting just cut away because there's no work.
Yep.
The other company finds the talent they need to help them at the price that they want. And the company who's employing that person brings in additional revenue to their business, helping them grow and also, hire more people.
Yeah, and also the cost of replacing them and training up someone new would be massive.
Right.
So they don't have to, when they need them again and that sort of demand comes back, they don't have to start from scratch and retrain somebody. Whereas this is an idea I feel like is quite unique, and it kind of is one of those things, but it seems
something that didn't exist actually.
Yeah, it's right, and that's like the hardest thing to do.
It is. It's been real hard when you're trying to educate everyone on what it was, because it was. I mean, subcontracting happens all the time. Yeah, companies always get people to come in and audit their books or whatever. But I saw the problem of, I was talking to people and I'm like, hey, how's your job going? And they go, I just got fired. The project ended and they had nothing more for me. So I'm looking for work. And it's like, but you were one of the best at what you do. Like, and you're loyal. And they're like, yeah, but they didn't have the work.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I'd be talking to other businesses that are like, oh, I've got a talent shortage. I can't even do this project because I don't have the right people. Yeah. And it's like, well, why can't we match you two up?
Yep.
Like there are, hundreds of thousands of businesses all across this country. Yep. And all of them are in different states. Some have way too much work, some not enough. Yep. Like look at COVID, for example, right?
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Is this been crazy for you?
And and does it solve all the types of contracts, like full-time contractual work and then part-time, or just part of it?
Well, firstly, we don't do recruitment, so it's not about permanent placement. Like if you want to hire someone, you don't do it through us, you go to a recruiter. Yeah. Or you go to Seek or whatever. We're about, like, I just need someone to come in for a short period of time. So that employee remains employed by their parent company. So they got job stability. They still get paid the same way. They're just working on something different for another company.
Yeah, but does it matter what kind of contract they have with their employee? Like they have full-time job or they have contract? Yeah,
it does both. Obviously, it's that company needs to make sure that they're following the right employment laws and things like that. So we do allow permanent employees to be contracted out. And if they do have contractors that are working with them over a long period of time, they can put them onto other tasks in between.
Sorry, I digressed for the COVID and situation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, that's interesting. So, I would assume that you'd be going gangbusters right now.
Well, COVID, the biggest thing COVID did was open people's mind to different ways of working.
Yes.
And different ways of operating.
Yep.
And that was the hardest part. Like 3.5 years up to COVID, when I was getting this off the ground, I'd go and talk to companies and go, look, you're having these problems. This will solve it. And they're like, oh, that's a great idea, but, it's just not high on our priority right now. And then all of a sudden COVID hits and all of a sudden it's on everyone's priority list.
Yes.
And they were like, oh my God, we're losing all our staff. Like at the end of COVID, we're going to have lost all of our corporate knowledge. We'll have to build up our whole business again. Yep. So they were going, what can we do to keep our staff?
Yep. Yeah.
And then you've got these other industries that were just booming, like, call centers and Services New South Wales and all of, like the supermarkets for it. And they were all like, well, we need people. Like, where are we going to get them from? So, in that sense, they all started looking for a way. So they all ended up gravitating towards the solution that we'd designed.
How interesting, because it's like 2016 you started, right? Yeah. And it's 2016 and this didn't exist. And it's like, wow, it's mind blowing because you say it solved this big problem and how come it wasn't solved or it wasn't elsewhere?
Well, so when I was doing my research, when I first had the idea for BenchOn, it had been tried before, but it had been tried by companies that had skin in the game. So Big Four consulting firms tried to create a marketplace for, specialists. But it doesn't work because it only works for those companies that want to work with that one company. Whereas our platform is all companies, and I'm unbiased. I don't care who wins the work.
Yeah.
I just want to match you up to the people who need what you do.
Yeah.
So when these companies that have skin in the game were doing it, their competitors obviously aren't going to use that. And then the suppliers to their competitors aren't going to use that. So it had limited benefit and therefore couldn't be commercialized properly.
Right.
So that's when I realized, well, if this is going to work, it needs to be horizontal across all industries. It needs to be open to all businesses because that's where you'll find those hidden gems.
Yeah, and I think for me, that's where a lot of digital businesses need to operate in that they need to be transparent. You can't be seen to be trying to monopolize things or act in bad faith when you're starting, especially a startup.
Yeah.
But when it's going tech online, to me, the most successful businesses are always built in what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. You know, if you think about the business of the future, all being built in that way, hopefully.
Yeah.
It's interesting, but yeah, it's great that you sort of saw that and have adopted that in your business model.
Well, I always had that thing of, if I'm going to start a business, it needs to be to solve a real problem.
Yes.
You know, not just, I thought up a good app that I can build.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that fail, right?
Yeah, and you've got to care and be passionate about it.
Right.
Because, and we'd love to hear a bit more about that, like a bit more of the sort of the downside of your journey and some of the trials and tribulations.
Yeah.
We've got a thing if we want someone to cry. Ben and Dren show.
I don't know, but I can really put it on.
I have another one.
We want some. We've got to hang. Brad's got to hang over there.
Yeah.
I'm only 18 and look what's happened.
Because also with the Founders Club, that's the main idea. It's not just sharing the winnings, but also the losses and like all the challenges that everyone goes through. I guess it's not easy at the end, right?
Yeah.
You can tell us better in that sense. So.
Yeah, well, I guess my military experience was great because it has been a battle, like an ongoing battle, you know, and it always is. You know, you never know when a skirmish is going to happen and a fire needs to be put out, but you keep pushing forward because you're passionate about it, right?
Yeah.
And I read somewhere that you were part of an accelerator. Did that help on developing your idea, or?
Yeah, definitely. So it was the Blue
sorry
Chili.
for interrupting, because we're just developing on our accelerator here at Cohort, which is so we want to help 10 startups in the health tech industry, and we want to see how impactful would that be. So well, okay, so I had the idea, I fleshed it all out. I went to my mentor. He, within the first meeting, went, I love this, let's do it, I'll back you, I'll financially back you. So I went, okay. I went home, I systems engineered the whole, platform out. It was about 27 pages. And I took it back to my mentor and said, okay, take this to, an IT firm and get a quote, and then we'll get it built. And I was going to build it from scratch by myself. Yeah. So he took it to an IT firm and they said, that's going to be at least $1 million. And I saw the look on my mentor's face where he went from like passion and excitement to just like, you're on your own, buddy. Like, just boom, pulled parachute out the door.
Just
like,
smoke bomb.
And it just fades away. Like, he's like, I haven't got that much money. So I was almost back at the start, and I almost gave up at that point, going, well, I don't know, how the hell am I going to get $1 million? Like, I wouldn't even know where to start. And then I saw online this guy, Sebastian Eckersley-Maslin. He was the CEO of Blue Chili. He was ex-Navy, so he was military. And he started this accelerator, and it was for non-tech founders. And I'm so non-tech. And so I've just reached out to him and said, hey, I want a meeting. Met over lunch, and I pitched him my idea, and he goes, I love it. Like, we'll put you in. And he goes, we'll help you raise money and, help you set up a business. And what I really liked about his accelerator was that he had what he called the 156 program, which was a step-by-step process from going from idea through to scaling the business. And being in the military, I love following the bouncing ball. Like in the military,
structure.
To put on your shoes, there's like a 7-step process. All you have to do is follow the steps. Right. So I thought this is the best way to set up a business. All I have to do is start at one and just keep going. And that's how I got going so quick. So I pitched him in February 16. I pitched his investment board in March. I got accepted into the accelerator, and we had an MVP live with real customers by July.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, but how did you solve that problem of the $1 million component? Like,
because I didn't know about lean, the lean startup. I didn't know what an MVP was.
So you just built it yourself?
I systems engineered at the beginning was this gold-plated, amazing system. Like I built a Ferrari. And then when I went to Blue Chili, they were like, but all you need to do is get from here to Letterbox. So can you do that on a skateboard? And I was like, probably. So I got my MVP done for about 27,000.
Okay.
And all of the actual smarts behind it was all me on the phone. Behind the app. Just doing everything manually.
That's awesome.
And then from there, we just slowly added and built and enhanced and over the years, and now we've got like a fully automated algorithm. And
so that was a breakthrough, right? With accelerator, kind of.
Yeah,
like
well, to teach me how to how to do it.
If I can, Ben, my co-host, Ben, my mate.
Fangirl is going over here. The Dren Show.
So just one step back, and before you decided to move to and starting your startup, that decision, because basically you had this job, you had this comfort zone that you were in, and then you decided like completely leave it and risk it, because you didn't know if it would work or not. So just that period of that time.
Well, after I left the military, I landed like the lotto of all jobs. Like I was the national strategy and business development manager for a US aerospace engineering firm called Pacific Aerospace Consulting. They were still a fairly small company, but they were in the US and they were trying to build Australia. So I was able to work from home on the Gold Coast, travel whenever I needed to, design the strategy for the country and implement it. Like it was perfect. I loved it. You know, they paid great. They were good people, and it was always interesting work. But while I was learning about industry and creating more networks and hearing more stories, that's when I heard about, employee underutilization and, employees letting go and businesses shutting down because of this problem. And I went to my mentor and just said, look, how is it possible that this happens? Like it doesn't seem like, I'm not from industry, but it just doesn't seem like this is the most efficient way to do business. And he just went, look, mate, peaks and troughs is how business happens. Sometimes you got too much work, sometimes not enough. Your aim is to get through the tough times and hope that you get back to the good times, And he just said, that's the way it is. And in the military, when someone says that's just the way it is, normally they're trying to pull the wool over your eyes about something, right? Yeah. They either don't know why they're doing it, or they don't want you to look at it too closely because it's the easiest way for them to go, like to do their job.
Yeah, it's kind of what you say to your child. Like a 4-year-old child.
Yeah, and then they go, why? And you go, because I said so. So I had that beat into me so much as an officer in the army that when he said, oh, it's just the way it is, mate, get used to it. I was like, well, is it though? So I went away and I did research and I talked to more people and I talked to business owners and they all accepted it. They all accepted it as that's just the way it is. Yep. And then I had this one incident where 1 week, I saw this company lose this huge contract simply because there was a 2-month gap where the client just said, look, we've got to take a break. We'll come back to it. They had to, they didn't have the money to keep their staff going for those 2 months, so they had to fire them. And then when the contract started up again, they couldn't find the people when they needed them, so they lost this huge contract. Yep. So I was like, that doesn't make sense. So
so how does this work when you're going through, sorry to interrupt, but
that's right.
it's that thing of like you see this problem, but you don't necessarily, like that validation thing of something that you see, but you're not seeing, like, you can't see the data or you're looking at a market size and it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I guess it's the curiosity. Like you just go, something's not right here.
Yeah, it's your gut feeling, right?
Yeah, it is.
And then a lot of people say, don't trust gut feelings. You got to analyze the data and do all these.
I'm a big gut feeling guy.
No, me too.
Yeah. My gut will tell me normally like the right thing to do, even though I don't know why.
Yes.
I just go, no. And then I find out 3 or 4 months later that if I had gone the other way, it would have just been horrific.
Your subconscious is like Albert Einstein level, but my conscious level is like, Homer Simpson.
Yeah.
And it's like your subconscious knows and it's kind of like, hurry up. Like, it just sort of feeds you the answer and you don't know why. And then
there is
3 weeks later you go, that's why.
Yeah. Well,
it took your conscious mind 3 weeks to work out something. Your conscious mind did that.
I completely agree. You've got this genius in your brain, but he's blind, deaf and mute, right? And they're trying to warn you of something.
Yes.
But, they have to do it in these weird ways, like, just a feeling or, a random idea or something. And so that's why I'm a firm believer in trusting it.
No, I was just complimenting that with Malcolm Gladwell from the book Blink. I don't know if you read that book.
I haven't, no.
He completely, smashed the exploration of this gut feeling and how we make decision. Yeah. And that, that gut feeling, that quick decision that you do, that has like years and years and years of data like inside you that you have worked on.
Yes.
So yeah, he like perfectly explains that. I love it. So
you see that movie Limitless? You know, where he takes the tablet and all of a sudden he can just access everything.
Yeah.
Like that would almost be like if you could just tap into your subconscious and everything you've learned or experienced in your entire life, you could suddenly, you know, recall.
It's all sitting there.
Yeah. Like that's the, I
do
just,
some hypnosis.
there's just like this big
it.
wall in between it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. So where are we up to? Let's dive back into just finish the accelerator.
Yeah.
So you finish the accelerator, you've got the MVP. Now you're like, all right, now I've actually got to go along and do this, or I can jump back into a safe job.
Well, I was still working. I was doing this as a side hustle.
Okay.
Yeah. So working full time and then worked full time at nights.
And would you recommend that? That's a good way to do it, isn't it?
Well, I was young enough. I had the motivation and everything to do it.
Yep.
So and the energy, I guess.
Yep.
Now I wouldn't, but so I was able to do that, and I had very accepting bosses who, sort of gave me advice and knew that I was doing this. And so I was doing this side hustle for sort of 8 months, but it started to really pick up. And then I said to my boss, I'm like, well, I have to make a decision. Do I just keep doing this as a side hustle or do I quit my job and do it full time?
Yeah.
And I think this shows the quality of the guy he was, because he didn't want me to leave, but he said, look, I'll ask you a question. If you don't go into this full time, and it fails, like, will you ever forgive yourself? And I went, no, you're right. Like, this is the idea. Like, I have to give this everything. And I went, okay, thanks so much. Here's my resignation. He goes, wait, what? What do you mean? What do you mean you're resigning? Yeah. But I guess that shows his character as a boss. Like he wanted to make sure that I was making the right decision. And
well, it's good he didn't say, we'll check your contract. I own all the IP to whatever you're working on.
Yeah. No, it was all kept very separate. So then I quit my job. Yep. We sold our house. And the proceeds from my house sort of funded me starting the company.
So you jumped in.
Whoa. Yeah, everything my wife and I had earned in our entire life was suddenly in the business.
And this is something I wanted to touch on too, because you're in business with your wife.
Yeah.
How obviously she's the brains, and
she's definitely the brains. She's definitely the boss, but she didn't want to be in it at all. Like when I first had the idea for BenchOn, I wrote it all down. I came out and it was like this explosion of, oh my God, like I've cracked it. Like I've solved the life of, universe and everything. And so I was jumping around. She said I was jumping around like this monkey, and I'm trying to explain what it is. And she was looking at me like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but you're really excited. So I'm happy for you.
Yeah. And you want to what?
Yeah. So,
sell the house.
So she was very supportive on the way through. And I've always said, you can't do anything great unless you've got stakeholder buy-in, if she wasn't behind me on it, this never would have happened.
Yep.
So she was very supportive, and then I've never run a company before, and she's run companies her whole life. So I said, hey, can you help me set up the admin and the pay and all that sort of stuff? And so she started doing that for me just to help me out. And then the business took off too much, and I couldn't afford staff at that point. So I was like, hey, I need you to do this. And so she started doing more and more. Yeah. And then I was like, I think it's time you quit your job and you come work for me. And she was like, I don't really want to work for you. So she started off as like business admin manager. And then gradually she just, absorbed everything about the business and the market, and she took more of a, central role. So then she was running the operations of the business. So I was out as the face, selling the concept, getting investors, getting new customers, and she ended up becoming the business that worked.
Yes.
And so then we had a conversation in about the beginning of 2018 where I went, well, why aren't you a co-founder and why aren't you the COO? You do it anyway, and you've been there from the very start. So we changed the structure and became co-founders, and she became COO, and we've just gone from there.
Yeah. And it's funny, like I think the story you tell, it's very similar to the story that Kelvin was saying, and I think this is probably a common theme that we'll learn from all the founders we chat with, but he was saying it's this tiger by the tail. It's this like, you just it just takes off. You're not really controlling it. You're just like going along with the ride. And it just seems like that's a bit of a common theme to successful startups and businesses that,
I agree. Like,
powering through it.
you're going, you have to do it. You know in your soul you're following this.
Yes.
My wife calls it something different. She calls it the Mad Hatter's Tea Party. Because she goes, like, the entrepreneur is just like, I've got this idea, and no, look over here, I've got a new idea. And,
but that's funny, because we were saying this, and I was saying I appreciate Dren because he's very structured.
Right.
And I'm the Mad Hatter.
The chaos.
And I'm saying it's chaos and discipline, and there's these like bands of like chaos here, and then there's structure.
Yeah.
And you need to be constantly dipping in both bands to innovate and move forward. But you seem like you've got that military background, but you're also saying you're a bit wild in your early days. So would you be structure, or so you are the Mad
I
Hatter?
am wild with a sort of a coating of structure.
So you've actually been tamed a little bit.
The army tamed me. They broke me. They broke the wild guy, and then they built me back up. And then when I got out of the army, I was like, I can be wild again.
Back to your habit.
Yeah. But at the same time, I still got, had to get up. I got up early in the mornings. I still went, running every morning, and I would still make my bed. Like, these things just get, ingrained into you.
Yeah. Dren had some notes, and his first question was, what time do you get up? And I was like, that's a bit weird.
These days, I was thinking Tim gets up like 4 a.m. or something.
No. These days I get up when I have to. Yeah. And now my kids, they do like swimming in the mornings. I got to get up at 5:30, and
Yeah.
So
but
I want to talk about raising.
I just before that, can we? Because it's a specific background with the army and the discipline, and coming to a startup, which is a bit. It's not very structured thing, like usually, and especially when it starts. And then how does that help you coming from that background?
Completely mess with my mental health, right?
Because you're used to it being.
I was used to routine. I was used to knowing exactly what I was going to do. Like in the military, I knew exactly what my life was going to be like for 5 years ahead. Yeah, like I knew. And then when I got out of the military, I sort of had that period where I worked for the consulting firm, and I worked from home, so I sort of dropped my routine a bit, but I was still okay. And then when I started my startup, there's no one telling me what to do. Like, the world's my oyster. I can paint it blue, or I can do this, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I loved that freedom for a short period of time, and then I got lost in that freedom. Yeah. Very quickly, and it became oppressive. I didn't like having too many options.
Yep.
And so I developed anxiety, and I wasn't productive, and I started to hide away from the task, and I was procrastinating, and I had sort of this realization moment where I went, I need to go back to routine. So I implemented, exact routine of what I was going to do. Like, I knew what time I was getting up, I knew what I was going to eat. From the moment I woke up to the time I went to bed, it was structured. And then I went back and got all my old military planning documents out about, how I write orders and how I plan attacks and everything else. And I just converted that into business speak. And so I structured even the way I plan my business and think about my business. And that got me back on track. Awesome. So for me, freedom is bad because I guess because I've got that wild streak, right? Like as soon as I get freedom, I want more freedom. Same as like you have one drink, I want 10 drinks, like that's that side of me, and I have to stop that with structure.
And now after some years, you managed to put more structure, I assume, right?
I go backwards sometimes. Okay. It's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And the 1 step back's fun for a bit, and then my wife sort of gives me the look, and I'm like, okay, 2 steps forward again. Yeah. But no, I'm so well past where I was when I first started. Yeah, like I'm much more stable now, and feel like I'm in the zone.
Startup with the structure.
I just wanted to play ping pong and wear hoodies, but apparently that wasn't how you raise a business.
So we went through the MVP. You started to get customers, and then you said earlier that you've had 3 rounds of raising.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So we did an initial pre-seed. Yep. Where we raised about 125K. Yep. To really, that helped me get the MVP, the marketing, all the legals and all that sort of stuff done.
Yep.
And then we did a seed round, when I brought on staff. So I brought on a CTO and, built it out more and did more marketing. And then we did I guess what we call pre-Series A round. Just to keep us going, because like we were talking about before, it took a long time for the industry to come around to the idea. So I had to survive for a long time with not much revenue coming in. And
And now how many staff have you got?
We still do it all with seven staff. Like we're
awesome.
Because the tech is so smart, it does it all itself.
Well, that's what you got to keep it lean, and you got to you're still in that phase. But so tell us a little bit about raising. What's the hardest thing? What was it's like
no one should be looking.
Hardest thing, right?
Can I just say no one's should look forward to it? It's horrible. Like I mean, the first thing is how time consuming it is, and when you're a young startup with no staff, you're either working on your business or you're raising, and sometimes raising can take 6 to 8 months. But you can't take 6 to 8 months off your business, otherwise there's no business. So you end up working triple time during that period, and you're dealing with people who they don't care about you or your business, or
and you're constantly watching kind of your back, and I guess like not trusting the process either, and
however many of them they'll string you along. Like I had one of the rounds, I can't even remember which one it was. There were these 2 guys in Sydney who were like, we're going to fund the whole thing, we love it. So I stopped looking for investors because they were like, we're good. And then over a period of 3 months, they made me fly down to Sydney 8 times just to talk questions and things with them. And then they go, look, we've had changes in our portfolio and we can't take the risk anymore. And it's like,
we've heard that off pretty much everyone.
What it's common, right? And you talk to VCs and investors, and they go, look, they're just letting you down easy.
And it's like literally you have to. The money has to get in your bank before you can trust that it's coming through. That's what that's said.
And that's why
you get your term sheet done. Everything's good to go. Where's the money?
That's right.
Show me the money. It's not there.
And that's why you get these entrepreneurs who are new to the game, and they go in and they pitch, and someone goes, look, it's just not for us. And then they come out and they bitch about it, like, they didn't even let me explain this, and they just don't know, and I'm going to prove them wrong. And you go, dude, they gave you the best gift. Like they told you straight up, this is not for us. So you can move on to the next one, right? Rather than string you along for months. And then because they don't want to hurt your feelings and then let you down. But I've now lost 3 months worth of runway. And I'm now in a worse position. So rip the Band-Aid off. Tell me.
Well, we had Vu Tran in the Founders Club, which you missed, by the way.
No,
boy.
I know.
But one of the key things he said was, they've planned out their raises, and he said they've been, pretty excited and surprised by how accurate they were.
Oh, that's good.
But have you got one coming up? Do you plan your raises out? Like you've sort of got a bunch of money and you got to get through that? Yeah,
so we've got a Series A plan for the second half of next year.
Oh,
cool. And because
let's announce it right now.
It's coming. Seriously,
we're already starting to talk to people. So come on in, have a coffee, and we can then take time. But
some high net worths watch the Ben and Dren show. Let me tell you.
But we launch products globally this December, so that'll give us 6 months to really prove the international market, and then we'll do a Series A to then choose which markets took off the best and really invest and grow. The overseas, as well as sort of solidify our market here in Australia. Yeah.
So what was the LinkedIn thing that Dren saw today?
I mean,
the new messaging.
Well,
it's a rebrand, I guess.
Evolving. So
we evolved.
And I even checked the website, and it was like, is it? Did they change the products? Are they selling something else? Kind of like
it's just. So it's still the same thing, but we're looking at it from a completely different angle. Okay. So I'll give you the background. We started off as a business talent sharing platform, and it was designed to solve problems for small businesses who couldn't keep their staff. And so I spent the first 2 years of the business working with small business, because enterprise, firstly, wouldn't talk to you really if you're a startup. And secondly, the decision cycles were so long. It was like 12 months to make a decision. And a startup doesn't have that time. So it was like, okay, screw enterprise, we're going with small business. So we did everything we could to help small business, but the platform just wasn't working. And the reason it wasn't working was because small business don't really have the jobs, like the need.
Yes.
You know, they don't have the contracts.
Yep.
They've got a whole heap of people sitting on the bench, which is where BenchOn comes from, by the way. Sitting on the bench. But they didn't have the contracts. So I was bashing my head against a wall, and that anxiety was building. And then I realized, well, the enterprise have the contracts because they win these big government programs. So how do I get into them? So then I started doing pilots with, you know, big four consulting firms and other big companies. And I said, well, what's your issues? And they just said, okay, well, our issues are that we can't find the people when we need them. And I went, well, this platform, if you put your job in here, it'll search through thousands of small businesses and find you the exact ones you need. And they went, okay, all right, but still there's these things that we need. And so then we took all that away from them, and we went away and we built enterprise products. You know, we built industry network portals and all these things that enterprises could use. And then we started selling to them, but that was sort of having some success.
Yep.
Some who were really innovative were picking it up.
Yeah.
But it wasn't having mass appeal. And the reason that it wasn't having mass appeal was because they'd listen to me talk, and they'd listen to me explain the product, and they'd go, that's fantastic. And then they'd go do their due diligence, and they'd look at my website. It's just all about, you know, business talent sharing and utilization and all this sort of stuff. And they go, oh, yeah, but that's not really what we want.
Right.
Like, we don't want to put our staff out. We just want to find people to come work with us, you know? So they would get confused.
So was it too much information?
No, it was just the wrong message. Like, we were pitched at the wrong customer.
Okay.
I was pitched where the problem was, which is what you should do first off.
Yep.
But to monetize it and turn it into a successful business, I needed to be looking at a different type of customer, which was enabling the solution.
Right. Yeah.
So it was like this light bulb moment where I went, well, enterprise are the customer I need to be focused on and messaging to and selling to.
Yep.
And then through them, I will get this ultimate passionate benefit that I want for small business.
Yes.
So then we went through and went, okay, if I'm, what do I need to say to an enterprise to get them to buy my stuff? So we completely reworked the messaging. And so we changed from a business talent sharing platform to a global resource and supply platform. And, you know, we, rather than just putting in an assignment and sharing it out to thousands of companies, you have supplier panel management and supply chain management and, you know, all of these different enterprise level things that they need, and they need it desperately. Enterprises are still working on spreadsheets and phone calls and emails, and it's like, guys,
is that enhancing the product you had, or adding something new to the, or
well, 2018 was when we pivoted to build software enterprise products.
Yeah.
And we've just completed our rebranding like this week.
Yeah.
So it's been 18 months because we built the products, then we piloted them with key enterprises.
Yes.
And once we got all that feedback and really built on the products and went, yep, these are all good now.
Yep.
That's when we rebranded and remessaged and went, okay, now we're launching to the enterprise market.
But do you need to build up the marketplace of of people, so that could tie in with the enterprise?
Yeah,
because I would imagine if they go on and type it in, and there's nothing there, then they're not going to come back.
Right, so chicken and egg, first. Right? Do I get the people first, or do I get the jobs first?
And this is a huge problem for marketplace businesses.
The way that we solve that is through our enterprise network portals. So enterprises get their own branded portal where they manage all of their own contracts.
Yes.
And what they do is every enterprise has hundreds of small businesses that want to work with them.
Yep.
So all they do is go, here's our portal. If you want to work with us, register.
Yep.
And we'll put the jobs out. So they bring the market to their own portal.
Right.
So for every enterprise portal I've sold, it's brought on about 500 new small business clients to the platform.
Yeah, cool.
So our enterprise clients are growing the platform for us.
Yep.
And so they're getting the supply to their own demand.
Yep.
And the real power of the platform is that outside of these portals, every single company on the platform is linked together through the national network. So they might be there to win work with, say, you know, a big four consulting firm through their portal, but they're winning work from a company on the other side of Australia through the national network, and they're winning business from South Australia, and they're, all these different contracts are coming through that they're winning.
Yep.
So it creates this meshed business network where everyone can find whatever they want.
Yep.
While the enterprises are still fulfilling their roles of, managing their suppliers and managing their programs.
Yeah. So it's that building, you've got that sort of building block element at the start.
Yeah.
Got that right. And then that feeds into the bigger idea.
Yeah. So the national network is what I started with.
Yes.
You know, the idea that if every business in Australia was connected on a platform,
Yep.
no matter what you need, you'll be able to find it.
Yep.
But you're right. How do you grow that? How do you grow it by verticals? Because we had to go horizontal from the start.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you couldn't do verticals. Because if I did like say engineering, engineering companies have engineers. They're engineering companies. Yeah. They need project managers and IT developers and all the ones that they don't have.
Yes.
So you have to go horizontal. But how do you then build equal supply and demand across each vertical at the same time without about $10 million marketing budget?
Yep.
You know, so we had to come up with smart strategies about how our customers would help us grow the market.
Yep. But what is it? What do you have to do first, or what is it that you did specifically that enabled you to keep going? Is it that you spent the right time building a quality product? You built the right sort of infrastructure in your product that then you could take it in a different direction, or you just had the right strategy from the start? And that sort of stayed through. Yeah. Then you're able to take that in a different direction because you built it properly.
Firstly, the only reason we survived was just pure tenacity and arrogance of just going, this is right. I know it's right. You people just haven't caught up yet.
But did you have to change that? Did you change it at any point?
Yeah. So I would say that I wouldn't call the 2018, that would be the closest thing to a pivoting from, ubiquitous SaaS platform to enterprise software.
But could you use the technology you built?
Yeah. It was all the same technology. We just built like add-ons, like different add-ons onto it. Like the algorithm and the main platform is still the same. But
is it like, did you spend the time building that properly that enabled it to do that? Is that something maybe?
Lots of engagement. So we worked very collaboratively with our clients for the first probably 3 years.
Yep.
We brought them into the fold, I guess, and they gave us patience because they knew that we were a small business and we were doing something that never been done before.
Yep.
We gave them additional benefits, like if they said, this sucks, I want you to change it to this, we changed it that week.
Yep.
Like it was, they saw that they were helping create this amazing platform. So we had that sort of, I guess, leeway in the early days, and that helped us create what was amazing. And then
is it like a focus on quality?
Yeah.
I guess I'm trying to think of like, what is that thing?
Well, it's customer, like the customer focus. Like it was all about, are you happy?
Yes.
Like it's not I have my own ideas about what I think it should be, but if my clients aren't saying that that's what they need, then
centered.
Just quickly, because we're a bit like
we don't have
enough time, but we have a couple of questions. That the last question, I mean, because you mentioned earlier with the global expansion plan, which is pretty cool. The plans that you have, that's a good strategy. And just quickly about that, what's happening?
Well, this came out of COVID actually. We recognize that the reason that businesses that are spread out globally or nationally or, whatever, weren't working well together was, they weren't communicating, but they were all in their own siloed offices, right? So the idea of remote work, and you guys would know this, the idea of remote work, it was so fringe. It was for only those really hard to handle employees that, whatever. So COVID changed everyone's minds on that. Everyone is now set up to work remotely. Like across the world.
And we were saying too, like it's only recent that, people are working on clouds now and in people's home internet connections is fast enough to do things.
Right.
It really is not that. It's really like the last year or two.
Well, like a year ago, if you said to someone, hey, let's jump on Zoom or Teams, they would have been like, I don't do that. Like, well, let's meet for
I didn't even know what Teams was.
I don't know. I was
like, there's this thing there that I see.
But now if you ask anyone, they're like, okay, I got it. And even then I know how to lock Zoom so that no one else comes in and all these little tricks. So everyone's set up for it. And so we were talking to this global professional services firm in the accounting space, and they said, look, we want to match up supply and demand within our own company across all of our offices across the world. Like, can you do that? And I love it when people come to us and go, I love what your tech does, would it do this? And we go, actually, it does. You know, that's awesome.
Is that quality I'm talking about?
Yeah. So the idea is that it links up all of their own offices across the world, so that if one office is in a peak, they can share that workload with another office that's in a trough in another country. So that's what we've done. So we've now got this fully automated platform that's going to be like an internal platform for this one company.
Yep.
And, you know, their 600 offices across the world will be able to tap into the supply and demand across their own business.
Yeah, so you're going global without any marketing spend or setting up any offices overseas.
Well, by the end of next year, we'll be in 127 countries, right?
Wow.
And that's without me doing any overseas travel.
It's so clever. Like, all of this stuff's clever.
Yeah.
You know, like, it is. It's like doing stuff in a different way.
Yeah.
You're coming at it from different angles.
Hey, Tim, so just about this a bit, we should kind of finish this, come to finishing the conversation. A bit about the startup community in general and your experience. And then, because we have you on the Founders Club, which is pretty cool, like having all the founders and having the chance to like listen to your stories and challenges and everything that you've gone through. So a bit of your experience with the startup community and the Founders Club, and does that help being with your peers and like just chatting around?
These days, yes. I love the Founders Club. I love talking to people who are at like similar stages to me and have the same problems. You become very isolated as an entrepreneur, and you feel like you've got all these problems that nobody understands. So when you're talking to other entrepreneurs, it's good.
It's important. Yeah.
I do find though, as an opposite side to that, in the early days when I first started, some people treat the startup scene like a self-licking ice cream. Like they just want to go out and talk about innovation and startups, but they don't actually do anything. They just go and talk about it with other people, and they just talk and talk, and they're at events every night, and they're
and they don't have nothing, right?
It's like, how can you build a business? All you're doing is out talking to other people about their businesses, right? I think there's a balance.
So you need to kind of like do something, reach at a certain point, then you can kind of go on and like share everything.
I think the startup scene has a really good role to play in educating new entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And I think we all have a responsibility to pass on that knowledge.
Yeah,
that's right.
So that they don't make those mistakes. But then at a certain point, you almost need to cut them off and go, okay, you've had enough now. Now go build your business.
Yes. Yeah.
We'll be here to support, but don't just go and hang out at the the accelerators and everything else and just sit there all day doing nothing. Like build a business.
Yeah.
We'll be here to support you, and then come back in and lean on the relationships you've built over the time.
But yeah, like our role as an innovation space is really just, I see it as supporting guys like you who are, working on these businesses. But the other thing that's blown me away about the Founders Club is the guys who are a little bit further ahead, no issue coming in and talking and sharing stories.
Yes, they're so willing to help. Yeah.
I think there's this ecosystem thing where there's this give first thing, which I hate. But then there's this give. It should just be give.
Yeah.
Right. And the founders, as soon as we've asked, the right founders, some have just kind of ignored our emails, which is fine. Yeah. But people are at different things.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of people are when do you need me?
Keen.
I'm there.
Well, I think
they just want to help founders.
Once you get to those later levels, you're right. You don't get enough interaction with people. And I've never worked in a co-working space. I've always worked out of home. And so I think I said that to you on the first Founders Club. It was just like, I'm so excited to get out and talk to people. And not like clients, but just like people.
Yeah.
But I love it. I recommend anyone come to the Founders Club. They're a really great group of people.
Yeah, well, we'll keep it going. I think we've got one more, and then we're going to have beers at Lost Palms.
Yeah.
So winding down at the end of the year.
We have you on the 5th, right?
Yeah, I'm there. It's in the calendar.
Pick you up.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Well, thanks, mate. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, no worries.
Anything last?
No, it's great having you, and thank you for being here. And,
thanks. Really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you. Thanks for your time, and good luck.
Thanks, guys.
Good luck,
appreciate
man.
it.
Thanks. Cheers.